Okay guys, so the first thing you want to do is take a small, shallow pan and grease all the way around the edges and line with a layer of baking parchment. This is going to stop it sticking and make it much easier to get out later. Next, take your bowl and add 200 grams of softened butter and 200 grams of caster sugar. We are then going to cream it together until it's light and fluffy. It's very important that your butter is softened, as if it's cold it'll lead to your cake cracking and making it hard to ice later. Once it's light and fluffy, add 2 whole medium-sized eggs and continue to beat until combined. After this, add 200 grams of flour and half a teaspoon of baking powder. Scrape down the sides with a spatula and continue to beat it. It may be quite stiff at this stage, but don't worry, we're going to be adding some more liquid later on. Once it's all combined and light and fluffy, add 2 more eggs and beat. It'll look sloppy right now, but keep beating until it comes back together. Now split in half and place into 2 bowls. For the sour Pokepuff, add 1 teaspoon of lemon extract and mix it in. You can use about a tablespoon of lemon juice, but this extract will be useful for the icing later on, so we highly recommend using it as it doesn't add extra liquid. Once it's all mixed in, add a tablespoon of lemon zest as well to intensify the flavour. Set aside, and to the other one add a teaspoon of vanilla extract. This is going to be our sweet Pokepuff. Stir it until it's all combined. After this, add a few drops of colouring. We use red to make pink Pokepuffs. We think this makes it more appealing and similar to the game TV counterparts, as well as allowing you to distinguish between the 2 different flavours. Now, take the 2 different bowls and add half of each flavour to the tray, and spread it thinly out until it's in an even layer. These will rise a bit, so make sure your pan is deep enough to hold it. These will later become the tops for our Pokepuffs, and the reason why will become apparent when we make the icing later. Make sure to save the other half for the bases. Take this and place it in an oven preheated to 180 degrees centigrade and cook for about 7 to 8 minutes or until a toothpick comes out clean. Don't wait until they're golden brown, as you really don't want these too dark. Next, take a cupcake pan and spoon the rest of the mixture into them.
Don't fill them up as you would normal cupcake, about halfway is about right. We've got 12 of them. Place in your oven at the same temperature for around 12 to 15 minutes, or again until a toothpick comes out clean.
Once they are ready, take them out the oven and let them both cool completely in the tins.
Now we are going to cut the tops out. Find a cookie cutter that is just larger than the tops of the bases and cut as many as you can out. We got 8, but if you were better you could get around 10. Place them on a separate plate. Once you are done, don't throw the rest of the cake away, we are using it for decorations later.
Okay, now we're going to make the icing, although this may be a little different from what you're used to. To a bowl, add 4 extra large eggs, or 5 medium eggs if you don't have those, and remove all the yolk, making sure not to get any yolk in the white. To this, add 250 grams of caster sugar and place the bowl over a saucepan full of water and heat until all the sugar is dissolved. Now, you may be wondering why we're doing this. This kind of icing is known as Swiss meringue buttercream and relies upon no icing sugar. Instead, it's actually a kind of stabilised meringue. This step pasteurises the eggs, however we recommend that you use regular buttercream if the very elderly or the very young are going to eat them, as there is a very, very small chance of foodborne illness.
Once they have all dissolved, take off the heat and beat until it's fully volumised and its soft peaks, about 5 minutes. Now you may wonder why we're going to all this trouble. This is because due to us making these small top-heavy cakes, it requires a stronger, stiffer buttercream that is much lighter than American buttercream, so it's less likely to fall apart. Once it's fully volumised, add 250 grams of softened butter and beat for 10 minutes until it's come back together and it's nice and fluffy. It will look split. You may start freaking out, just keep beating and we promise you'll get back together. Now you may even thinking why not just bake a cupcake slice in half and ice it? Well, we were researching this and most common way of doing it we had, but this came with a few problems.
So firstly, Pokepuffs in the show have always been to us be more reminiscent of a macaron rather than a cupcake due to their light and dainty designs rather than the rich and indulgent designs of a cupcake. So slicing a cupcake in half doesn't give you that same effect. Secondly, they're shown to be really top heavy, so a thin and light top is essential to stop them from sliding apart. Finally, we aim to recreate the spirit of a Pokepuff rather than the exact match, and this method we found gave the best results. I think it's very important to think of these more as macarons than cupcakes, as this will lead to a much better final result. This is where the special buttercream comes in. It allows for a much smaller amount of icing to be used and still support the structure. You really want to be using as little as possible, as too much will be way too sweet, as well as really kind of looking like a mess.
If you notice the buttercream making its way up the side, stop the beaters and scrape it down with a spatula. Once it's light and fluffy, stop the beaters and add salt and vanilla extract. You will need a lot of salt to balance out the sweetness, don't be afraid to add a lot. Just taste and adjust. Beat it until it's combined and split evenly to 2 bowls.
To one, add a teaspoon of lemon extract or lemon juice. Just be wary not to add too much as it could split the icing. And to the other, add a few drops of food colouring. Stir both in until combined. Now take one and put half in a piping bag with a small round shaped nozzle. Work quickly as this icing is really unstable above 15 degrees centigrade, so this will be needed stored in the fridge. After that, pipe whatever design on the base you like.
For the top, we use flat nozzles and the other half of the icing to give a flower effect. Just remember, less is more with these.
For our second flavour, we use the same nozzle as the base, but if you wanted to, you could put a little jam or curd in the centre. It's really up to you.
For the top, we use round textured nozzle as we really like the effect, but try out a bunch to see what works for you.
We finished ours off by topping them with a little leftover cake crumb from earlier, but you could use sprinkles, chocolate buttons, or really whatever you want.
And here are our results.
Okay, thanks guys so much for watching. Sorry for the horrendous quality. We'll try to make sure and improve every video we make, so please stick around and subscribe for all the recipes we will create in the future. Bye guys!